Hi there. My name's Taylor Wrobel. I've been an engineering manager and engineer at OpenSea for the last 8 months or so. Tomorrow's actually my last day, so I'm not speaking on behalf of the company. But yeah, just thought I'd give some feedback on sort of the role of platforms in Web3. Specifically, platforms are pretty compromising to Web3. Before we get into that, I do sort of want to go through a quick history lesson of what we even mean by Web3. We hear about it all the time, but we don't really talk about what Web 1 and Web 2 really were. Web 1 was the web as it was first invented. You want to talk about decentralization? That was it, right? You ran all your own services. If you want people to be able to contact you, you're running your own email service. If you want to send your updates out into the world, run your own BBS, run your own RSS feed. You want to host a website, you're running that web server yourself. IRC if you want to have a chat room. Payment processing, don't bother. It was really hard before sort of Stripe came along and made that easier for people. Most people didn't even bother with it. Server hosting did exist, but it was really limited. It's basically just, I'll run this server for you, I'll connect it to the internet, everything else is up to you. And we all collectively decided that was hard, and we're not doing that anymore. So Web 2 came along, and we decided collectively that we're okay with compromising a bit. We're okay with centralizing and having convenience over control. So most consumers are not software engineers. Most consumers don't know how to run a computer. Most consumers don't know how to keep their website or web server up to date. It's just too much effort. And this is where we see the emergence of large platforms, or sort of platforms in general. So you've got your Gmail coming in. Everyone has an email account now. You don't need to run your own email server. It's much easier. PayPal makes payments easy, accepting them, sending them. Squarespace makes it super easy to get up and running with your own site. Things are a lot smoother. Maintenance at scale is cheap. So we see the cost of platforms go down or even be zero in some cases if there are a marketing angle to it and advertising powers it. And there's also improved security. Not everyone's a security expert. Very few people actually are security experts. But the more that you can defer to those security experts to sort of secure things in a centralized place, the easier that is. And you see the emergence of hosted solutions and not just hosted servers. So you're seeing things actually provide features and provide products. And you've got centralized identity providers via SSO. You log in with your Google everywhere. And now we're on to Web 3, which is sort of the re-decentralization. Our identity is distributed in Web 3. You've got a wallet address that nobody can prevent you from making more wallets. Everything is asynchronous and able to be distributed and verified, and everything is idempotent, and you can't really make changes to things that are published. Everything's permanent. It takes a lot of power away from platforms. Having worked in OpenSea, this is one of the hardest things that we fought with at our time there. You no longer control user accounts. So things that are very simple and very easy to do in a Web 2 world, like rate limiting user requests or doing DDoS or bot protection, are suddenly new, unsolved problems. And I think the biggest difference between Web 1 and Web 2 is that, or Web 1 and Web 3, is that Web 3 is uncompromising. Like the core technology under Web 3 enforces these things all the way through. It's all anonymous. You can make however many wallets you want. Nobody knows what a wallet is associated with. You can do some tracing of IP, but it's so easy to cover that up. Immutability is at the core of the blockchain. You can't change things. Once they're there, they're permanent. And distributed consensus is the most fair way of making decisions. And it's all built into the technology layer. And platforms completely break this. Platforms go against every nature of Web 3. It's sort of, by definition, it is a centralization. They have some control. But we spend so much time talking about how Web 2 is broken in some ways and Web 3 improves upon it. I think we sort of missed why Web 2 came to be in the first place. Web 3 is hard. Web 3 has the same issues that Web 1 does. It's very difficult for your average users to go and be able to operate by themselves in a Web 3 world. So maybe going against that nature is what users want, at least most users, I would say. You had Web 2. In Web 2, you still had people that ran their own email servers, but they tended to be technologists or that one weird uncle you have that always sort of smells like solder, or you hope it's solder. What if we're in the same state now, where we have like the tech enthusiasts and the crypto enthusiasts, but most users are not those, and most users find it very difficult to get involved in the Web 3 world because the tools are so primitive and the tools are so hard. So maybe it's not right to say that platforms are compromising to Web 3. Maybe what it really is that platforms offer compromise in Web 3. It's there if people want it. It is the option to let them sort of handle things that you don't want to handle, that you're scared of handling as a consumer, that you don't understand or don't trust. And platforms are already here, right? I mean, I first bought Bitcoin in 2012. It was not a fun experience. You went onto a forum online, you found someone promising to give you Bitcoin, they give you a bank routing number, you give them a wallet address, You walk into a bank and send out cash, and then you go home and twiddle your thumbs for a bit. Are you going to get Bitcoin? Who knows? You'll find out maybe in a week, maybe eventually. What's the exchange rate going to be at that point? Who knows? Price of Bitcoin changed so much on a day-to-day basis back then and still today. Waiting a week for that to actually be transferred, you have no idea how much money you're actually going to get out the other side. You had to download the entire blockchain onto your laptop or computer. That's not even tenable anymore, right? And it was a rough process. So with this, we saw what I would say is the emergence of the first Web3 platforms, exchanges. You were willing to compromise in various ways listed here. So you had a web-based wallet. You don't have to download the entire blockchain anymore. You don't have to wait for days to download and rebuild the blockchain, but that also means, you're deferring to this platform to not lose your private key. That also means the platform can give you things like a password reset. So if you do forget your credential, it's not completely unrecoverable as it is if you just use a wallet yourself. You can get crypto within minutes. You don't have to wait for days for something to maybe or maybe not come because you've sent money out into the abyss. And now they all generally require KYC. So you want to talk about anonymity? There is none at this point. If you're trying to exchange fiat currency, you've got to take a photo of your government ID and upload it, right? And you've got to do this to every exchange. So we're already making these compromises. And it's not just in sort of user-facing platforms. We have developer platforms as well, which makes Web3 dev sane. Developing Web3, very hard. It's a very opaque set of technologies. They're using very non-standard protocols. But there are API providers like Alchemy that make it bearable. And I say bearable and not pleasant because this is an Alchemy API response. And I don't know if you can see this, but everything is a hex-encoded string, even things like the timestamp. I don't know who does that. Why would you do that? But it's compromising. You're now having this dedicated gateway that you're going through for most data. And that is sort of centralized control. But again, for ease of development and for having a company that you can point to and say, hey, we're not able to pull data right now. We have an SLA. What can we do about that? Is really valuable even to other companies. And platforms offer protection. So IPFS is Interplanetary File System. It offers essentially persistent content addressable storage that's there forever, distributed everywhere. What happens when something illegal is uploaded? This happens quite a lot, and it's sort of very messy when it does. Varying levels of illegal activity, copyrighted material, classified government documentation or documents, child sexual abuse material in the extremes, right? There's no way to remove it. It's there permanently. As long as there's some node replicating it, there's no way to take it away. The address is always going to be the same. There's no way to hide it. But IPFS gateways provide, first off, a friendlier API. You can just connect to it through an HTTP endpoint. Way easier than trying to connect to IPFS directly. But they also provide centralized mechanisms for deny listing. I think fundamentally, Web3 has a trust and safety problem. There's a lot of phishing going on in the NFT space. It's easy to dismiss this as user error, right? Just say, you shouldn't have clicked on that, you shouldn't have signed that. But the UX around NFTs and Web3 identity is so hard. You're seeing issues with people trying to sign hashes 5 times a day, and it's just the same wallet signature box that pops up every time. People get fatigued with that. They're just clicking through them blindly at this point. And you have no idea what you're signing. Phishing attacks are irreversible because everything is permanent on the blockchain. They can be executed asynchronously. You can see people doing partial attacks and then waiting months to do a mass execution whenever they have enough people that are victims. And platforms help mitigate this as well. So NFT platforms such as OpenSea will verify collections. They'll do due diligence to make sure that people are who they claim to be. Minting platforms will dox project members. So they will say, we have verified the documentation of all the people associated with this project, so we know, or you can have faith that it's not a rug pull. They're not just going to run away with the money as soon as they go and create the project. Or at least if they do, you know who they are, and then can, sue them or whatever oldie-timey ways you take care of things. The marketplace APIs are immutable, right? So, or the marketplace APIs address immutability. So, NFTs are there forever. If you have an NFT stolen, it's there on the blockchain, stolen forever. But if most people defer to the OpenSea APIs or other marketplace APIs, which they currently do, your wallet's not going to the blockchain directly to look at your NFTs, it's going through OpenSea APIs, that's a location where things can be delisted. If you get delisted, if an NFT gets delisted on OpenSea, it's effectively worthless at that point. The resale goes down to 0. Nobody wants to touch it. Nobody wants to look at it. It won't show up in wallets. It really limits the functionality of that. So Web3 platforms are still early days. I think the future is going to bring some really cool things. Verified identity is a really big one. Being able to share, multiple addresses and have those be updated and be able to mark a wallet that you have as compromised and have a way that you can check that and say, this data or this wallet is no longer valid. Please don't use it. Doesn't exist right now, but would be really powerful in helping address phishing attacks. Smart contract insurance, I think, is long overdue. Being able to say this contract is insured, and you can get money back if something goes wrong with it in certain capacities, and be able to revoke that insurance in the future is super powerful. And I would say the big thing to remember is that Web3 is for everyone. We talk a lot about crypto proponents or like the crypto positive people that are already deep into the ecosystem and understand the compromises. But the majority of the market doesn't fall into that category. They're either crypto curious, just sort of experimenting with it, or they're crypto naive, people that have never really done anything with crypto and don't know what the trade-offs are. And platforms offer them the compromise that they need in order to feel comfortable entering the Web3 space and entering the NFT space. So maybe it's not even far enough to say that platforms offer compromising in Web3. I would say that platforms are critical to the success and future of Web3. Thank you.